If Aaron Philo is the Florida Gators starting quarterback in 2026, here's how he helps them win.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code Locked On to get $10 when you trade $10. And we are getting real close to the season. And there has not been an official announcement for who's going to be the starting quarterback yet, right? But I think that it has felt more now than ever that it's going to be Aaron Philo. And again, that's not even to say that I have an opinion on it or a take on it. Like I've said before, and like I've maintained, my belief is that I don't think we've seen enough from either quarterback, as in fans, media, anything, have seen enough from either quarterback to strongly, firmly know who the right choice is. Especially because I've seen, I know who's a better thrower of the football. I know it's Tramell Jones. I know who's the better runner of the two, which we'll talk about later, and that's Aaron Philo. What I don't see are the things that make the decision, though, right? And I know that it's really easy to just go, well, put the guy with the better arm in there and he'll learn. That's not always how it goes. Like development is not always linear, right? Regression exists. Not in like video games, but in real life, regression exists. Guys do get, a little bit stunted if they get thrown into the fire too early. So I'm not really thinking like, oh yeah, you got to throw Tramell in there right now into the fire. He would be my choice based on what I've seen. But there is so much about quarterbacking an offense that is more than just having an arm or having the better arm, right? And that's been a thing that we've been talking about with this is like, I know we can see clips that go on social media. We can watch this spring game. We can watch what Aaron Philo did in very limited reps at Georgia Tech. We can watch what Tramell Jones did in very limited reps last year for Florida. And we can come to conclusions, but there's so much about quarterbacking, especially in a Buster Faulkner offense, that it is different than just throwing the football. And that's been kind of that's kind of been the differentiator, I think, between Aaron Philo and Tramell Jones, right? Ever since Aaron Philo got here, we've been hearing, and we as in fans, right, have been saying, hearing, listening, whatever you want to say, about how Aaron Philo is comfortable with Buster Faulkner. He knows the offense. It's not going to be the exact same offense, but there's going to be a lot of similarities. I expect the offense to look very similar to Georgia Tech, minus the volume of quarterback run game. Okay. That means Aaron Philo knows a lot of it. He's got to work on, the terms and the actual words that they use for some things, but for the most part, he still knows how to run the offense. That's important. Okay. That's also a thing that Jon Sumrall kind of mentioned on Monday. And we spoke about it on Tuesday. That Jon Sumrall, when talking about Aaron Philo and Tramell Jones and what that battle has been like, he mentioned, Aaron came in and he was like, here, because he knew the offense, and Tramell was here because Tramell didn't know the offense. And now Aaron's here, Tramell's here. The gap's been closed. The gap has been closed, but Aaron Philo's comfort with the offense and comfort with actually quarterbacking the offense. And by that, I mean, like, again, it's not as simple as just relay the play call, get to the line, and let's do this. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And one of the things that Jon Sumrall mentioned Tramell Jones struggling with was that there were a couple of times during the scrimmage that I think he said there was twice during the scrimmage, and it happened throughout the week that Tramell Jones would try to take the snap without bringing the motion man in motion. And that's just one of those things where you can't do that in a Buster Faulkner offense. Like a Buster Faulkner offense is unorthodox, is what we're gonna say, right? There's motions and there's shifts. And shifts are when everybody's moving all around, right? Motion is when there's a guy that's coming across or motioning in some direction solo. And generally, you're snapping the ball either when he's doing the motion or once he stops the motion. And that's where you have to be really precise. Okay. And so if that's an area where you're struggling, that does matter. And that's a thing where fans, media, like we don't see that. I'm not at practices, we know this, but for the media that is at practice, they don't see that either. They're not watching 11 on 11s. They did mention it during the scrimmage, but they're not at practice every day. It's one of the reasons that it's like, hey, like believe, half of what you see, none of what you hear. I've said it before, like I don't care about how many picks guys throw, like not in the sense that I don't care how many picks someone throws, but it's tough for me to judge you on a pick thrown if I don't know the details, right? You throw a pick on Monday, no pick on Tuesday, a pick on Wednesday, and a pick on Friday, right? And I go, all right, well, you threw picks 3 to 4 days. What if the Wednesday one was off a receiver's hands and then got picked? And it's like, all right, well, then you threw one pick in the first half of the week and one pick in the second half, either 2 picks in the entire week. I'm not going to be too mad at that. And that's just where I'm like, look, like context matters, and we don't see the context. The thing that I think has been one of the most important aspects of this quarterback competition is quarterbacking the offense. That's why you can go back to all spring, all summer. I've been saying, look, I know who's a better thrower of the football. That's why I prefer Tramell Jones. But what we're not seeing is what these guys are doing in 11 on 11. And based on what we've heard about the scrimmage from last Saturday, based on what Jon Sumrall said in the press conference on Monday, it sounds like there's one guy that is quarterbacking the offense better than the other. And that's kind of the differentiator right now. Kind of that. And like that's the thing with Aaron Philo too, is like we've known that he knows what Buster Faulkner likes. He knows what Buster Faulkner wants. That's an advantage. It is. That's just outright, that's an advantage to have. When you're in a quarterback competition, I go, all right, I know that the OC likes when people do this. I'm going to do that. And he's going to like that, right? I will say this just in the talk of the quarterback competition and what it means. I've been very open about this from day one. I think that whoever loses this quarterback competition, they are probably going to transfer out. That's how I think. Like I think whoever loses this quarterback competition is probably going to leave the University of Florida at the end of the year and enter the transfer portal. Because whoever wins the battle, not going to be an NFL draft prospect for the 2027 draft. I don't care the kind of year they have. Okay. I don't really care the kind of year they have. I don't think that Aaron Philo is physically talented enough to have one great year and then go to the league and have that be justified. And Tramell Jones is not draft eligible yet, regardless of what you think about him. So whoever is the starter is probably going to be the starter for 2 years. And that's what you're going to get from both of them. So again, whoever wins, probably going to be back next year and maybe your starter. If they don't wow, I'd prefer a quarterback competition. But I think that the operational aspect of this is what separates Aaron Philo right now. So he's going to, I think, start the year as your QB1. That, to be clear, I do not think guarantees that he's going to be QB1 throughout the entirety of the year. We are going to talk about what else Aaron Philo would bring to the table as a starting quarterback when we get back with Locked On Gators. Before the season even kicks off, everyone is making predictions. It's who wins the conference. It's who makes the college football playoff, who's lifting the trophy, who's going to be your Heisman, your Biletnikoff, which Florida did not have anybody on the watch list for. The Doak, you're going to have, honestly, the Mackey, which Florida is, I don't think the list has come out, but Florida won't have anybody on it. All right. It's all about that. It's all about predicting things. And on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. And a live market, like Kalshi has, means that there's no house. You're trading against peers. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, represent the podcast and on YouTube. And we spoke about the operational aspect of quarterbacking an offense. And Aaron Philo, we believe, will have the advantage there. Another part of running a Buster Faulkner offense, you're going to throw a lot of short passes, a lot of quick game, right? And whether that's off of the RPO, just outright screens, or just, again, quick passes, short, quick, underneath, attack that way, you're going to do a lot of that. Okay. And I know that there's people that don't like the screens. You watch some of the best offenses in the country last year, and they were throwing a lot of passes behind line of scrimmage. Georgia Tech threw about 23% of their passes behind line of scrimmage last year. 22.9% were screens. 25.5% of passes went behind the line of scrimmage. That's basically just accounting for wide receiver or for running back running a swing, which is not a screen, and stuff like that. Okay. However, another 37.8% of passes were shorter than 10 yards. That means that what? I'm not a math whiz, but that's 62 or 63.3% of Georgia Tech's passes were shorter than 10 yards last year. 2/3 of their passes were shorter than 10 yards. That's a lot underneath. You got to be good there. And for Aaron Philo, I do think that some of it is just going to be easy, right? Screens are not a difficult thing to do, especially with the way that Buster Faulkner has run them. I'm going to say typically you're going to see a good bit of slot screens, which is, your slot receiver, just step back, boom, right? So you're going to see screens. You're going to see wide receiver screens. You're going to see a whole bunch of different kinds of screens. I know that there's people that are very, very hesitant on whether or not that's going to work. Again, it's not a big concern for me at all. And I'm not trying to be like everything Buster does is good, right? But I do think that you see a lot of offenses now that use a good 20-ish% of their passes are screens. I think that's just football right now. We're at a time where you're seeing a lot of quarters coverage. So 4 guys over top, which means they're trying to take that away, or 4 guys over top if you send guys vertical. So they're trying to take that away from you immediately. All right. Sometimes you've got a heavy box, and you got, all right, well, now they got more people in the box. We can chuck that out wide, and we can attack that way and just get running. You've also got really dynamic receivers. That's the thing. Zachariah Branch, Georgia has always thrown a good amount of screens, but when Zachariah Branch was there last year, they were spamming screens to him, because when you have a dynamic player, you can do that. And I'll tell you what, Georgia Tech did not have more dynamic players than Florida has. And yes, they were playing in the ACC. This is the SEC. That's different. But Georgia Tech averaged 8 yards per screen last year, throwing to Georgia Tech receivers. That means not throwing to Vernell Brown III, not throwing to Eric Singleton Jr., who was in Georgia Tech 2 years ago. not last year. Like, stuff like that matters. Not throwing to a Jaden Ball. Like, things like that matter. Quick game is going to be really important. And I do think that you're going to see more of those RPOs as well this year that I don't think we saw enough of under Billy, which, duh, bad coaches don't do good things. But RPOs are still very prominent. Like, I know that they've evolved a little bit, but they are still incredibly prominent in college football right now, and they're going to continue to be that. And especially with the way that Buster runs an offense, you're going to see RPOs attached to just about every run that you have. As in, not every run play has an RPO attached to it, but as in every run scheme, every run concept you use will have RPO options along it, right? Like you're going to see counter, right? GT counter, we'll say. You're going to see GT counter. And it might not have an RPO attached to it, but there are RPOs that are set up like GT counter so that as a linebacker, as a safety, I see them running GT counter and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm flying down. It's counter. I got to fly down. And then there's a slant going right over the middle and they're attacking that way. Like, you're going to see things like that happening a lot. Aaron Philo, again, with his comfort in the offense, should be able to quickly execute those plays and quickly make those reads. That's just one of those things where he's not super experienced, right? He's not. We've seen him throw, 100 passes in 2 years? I think that's it. It's not a lot. It's like 140 combined between the two of them. So we've seen him throw 100 passes in his 2 years in Atlanta. And it's okay, right? But he's been running this offense in practice settings at least for 2 years. And now he's taking QB1 reps doing that. That's the difference, right? Is that that's supposed to be where you should be comfortable. One of the very common air raid concepts is mesh. We've talked about mesh before, right? We did a whole show about mesh a couple months ago. When you got those two just underneath crossers, right? If they see zone, they sit before they run to the far zone. If they see man and they keep going, you're going to see mesh a lot. That's something where Aaron Philo should be able to execute, right? Timing should be a thing. Absolutely. You've got time. Like, you've been developing that. Underneath work's going to be important for this offense. I know that at Georgia Tech, part of it was, we have Haynes King, right? And Haynes King, great start to the preseason, right? But probably not going to be a long-term NFL option. Okay? I'm not saying that Aaron Philo is or that Tramell Jones is. Not saying that either of them are. Not saying either of them aren't, right? But Haynes King is probably not going to be a long-term NFL option. You got to simplify things. That is not why they win. Hey, let's just get a bunch of yards after catch. They win, hey, let's get a bunch of yards after catch because that's what's efficient. That's what's effective. You throw a quick pass underneath and he picks up 5-6 yards, extension of the run game, but actually, you're going to see this offense really attack underneath, really use quick game, because that also means that you can't really stack the box much. You can't. Are you going to see 8 men in the box? I dare you. I dare you to put 8 in the box. Because if we've got 2 receivers, 1 on each side, and you got a slot or a tight end that you could just motion out, throw the screen. Say, all right, whatever let's say probably the boundary, it's quicker, get the ball there. Snap, grip, throw it out to the side, get going, make the tackle, right? Make them make the tackle. And then you kind of force them to widen out a little bit, and then you can attack more on the interior. And so quick game is going to be really important. Aaron Philo should be able to execute that pretty consistently. And I just say should just because I refuse to say that anybody can definitively do it. Quarterback runs were a big part of the Buster Faulkner scheme at Georgia Tech. I don't think they're going to be a massive part, But I do think it's something Aaron Philo brings to the table more than Tramell Jones. We're going to talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. Thanks, Jeff, for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, representing the podcast and on YouTube. And Haynes King ran the football about 18 times per game last year for Georgia Tech. Not going to happen in Gainesville. But I do still think that you're going to see quarterback run game. And you should. We had Will Miles here about a month ago to talk about the quarterback run game and how important it is. And you know, stats will back it up. Film will back it up. When your quarterback is a rushing threat, offense gets a lot easier. Even if you're not running many option plays, offense gets a lot easier when your quarterback's a rushing threat. Because defenses have to respect it. And that's the important part. Like that's the important part of it, is that defenses have to go, all right, just keep an eye on them. And if they don't do that, then you attack where you can. Right? If you haven't been using quarterback run game and you're just drop back passing, they don't contain, it's 3rd and 4, go pick that up. And like Aaron Philo, I do not think he's an insane athlete. I've been very open about this too. I personally think that Tramell Jones is a better athlete than Aaron Philo. I think Aaron Philo is a better runner though. And part of that's just the mentality. Like just like okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, go. And just like take off running. We've seen that happen a bunch of times. I'm fine with that with young quarterbacks, especially. I've just been like, all right, going through my read. I do not have much more time to go through my read, take off, and just start going. And I think Aaron Philo can do that. I mean, we've seen him. He had the game-winning drive against NC State, I think it was. I could be messing up the team. But he had a game-winning drive where he used his legs, ran in the game-winning touchdown. Like, that's what he was doing. You make him pay. And Aaron Philo, again, I don't think he's an incredible athlete, but I think he's a pretty good runner for a quarterback. I've seen him take jet power read, which you're going to see. And if you want to read about it on swampsignal.substack.com, that's a free article about power read. But you're going to see jet power read. I've seen him take jet power read, pick up the first down, and take a shot. Like, I know that we don't watch him and think like, oh yeah, that's a guy that's athletic, mobile. He's going to be running the football. But he is someone that does that. Like that's just what he does. He's going to pick up those first downs. That makes your offense easier. I mean, hell, we watched Kyle Trask have a probably should have been Heisman campaign, or at least should have been in New York. And part of it was, you know, they had 3rd and 1. What did Florida do a bunch of times there? Anybody remember? We've talked about it here. Empty set, right? We go 5 wide. Even if one's a tight end or one's a running back, whatever, 5 wide in the sense of empty backfield. And we go, all right, they've got 4 defenders over here, or even 5. QB blast. Like, just take the snap and move forward and go pick up those extra yards. Pick up first downs, move the 6, live to fight another down. Keep your offense on the field. Keep your offense going. Give yourself more opportunities to score. Like, we've seen that happen. You don't have to be someone with Anthony Richardson's athletic ability to be a good runner. Being a good runner oftentimes is at least partially mentality. It's not entirely, but similar to tackling. Like, the want to is an important part of it. And Aaron Philo, no question, he's got the want to. Like, I've been very open about this. I'm obviously, I've said before, and in this show, my preference is Tramell Jones based on what I've seen. But I also don't have any question. Like, Aaron Philo is going to try to do whatever it takes to win. Like, that's the kind of mentality that I'm thinking of. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's going to take shots. He's going to take risks. But he's trying to win that game always. And I'm not concerned about that. Now, we had the conversation a bunch when Anthony Richardson was here, protecting himself, right? Which, more power to you. You were 4th overall pick. Congrats. But probably could have won more games if he wasn't protecting himself. I know Aaron Philo is going to go out there and be a psycho, take some shots that he probably shouldn't take. but he's trying to win the game. And like he's going to use his legs there. Again, it gives you a legitimate threat that the defense must prepare for. If you're running any designed quarterback run, defenses have to prepare for it. If you're running an option, defenses have to prepare for it. That's it. Now they have to go, all right, well, if they run counter and I'm the backside edge, I've got to sit here because when they run counter, sometimes it's counter read, right? And he can take off running. So I can't just pursue. I've got to be here, right? I've got to be waiting. And then as I'm waiting, the slot runs a slant right behind me and you rip it. And it's like, all right, well, if I didn't have to respect his legs, I probably could have been in that area, right? But I got to respect his legs. If I do drop back, then he can take off running, pick up a first down. Like his legs are going to be important. I think that operating the offense at a high level or just operating the offense, right, is probably the biggest gap between Aaron Philo and Tramell Jones right now. But I think the other big gap is how they use their legs. Again, I think Tramell is more athletic overall. But I think Aaron Philo's a better runner because I think that he just does not give a damn. Like, that works for me. That plays. I'm good with that. Honestly, I want someone that does not give a damn and is just going to attack, and you're going to make defenses prepare for that. That makes it tough. Part of what Buster Faulkner does is just throw so many things that look similar at a defense to cause just a little bit of hesitation. If your quarterback is not a threat to actually pull that ball and run it, then that's one less thing the defense needs to prepare for. So I've never been in the camp of like, oh yeah, Buster Faulkner needs a quarterback that's a running quarterback or even much of a dual threat. I've never really been in that camp. I think you do need a quarterback that is willing to do it, though. I think that's an important distinction. It's not about how great you are at doing it. It's not about how insanely athletic you are. It's not about any of that. It's about, are you crazy enough to go out there and do it? And if the answer to that is yes, then you can operate the offense. And I want to make this clear too. Like, I'm not saying Tramell can't do it. We've only seen Tramell in game, first off, last year coming off an injury from his senior year of high school that limited his spring a lot entirely. And then he came in, took the QB2 job, and we saw him there in a couple of games, right? So he was partially, I'm going to assume, protecting himself at times, but also he was playing in blowouts where he was probably trying to get passing reps. Plain and simple, he was probably trying to show what he could do as a passer because he's like, all right, well, the guy ahead of me is turning the ball over every 30 seconds. Let me show what I can do, maybe get myself some reps. And so I'm not saying that Tramell can't do it. And if you watch his high school film, you see him using his legs. But I do think that Aaron Philo is a better runner overall. And I know that he's going to be crazy and go after it. We haven't seen Tramell do it in a game yet. And again, it's not to say he can't do it. It's just that we haven't seen him do it yet. And there's such a small sample size that does make it hard to go, hey, like, we haven't seen him do this. I don't want to make the assumption he can do it, but I'm also not going to make the assumption that he can't do it. So it's just like, hey, whenever you do get your chance, show me what you got. And then we'll look at that. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free by visiting the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back later on today with a special SEC season preview squad show for the Locked On SEC squad. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all of my written work about the Florida Gators at swampsignal.substack.com, and I will see you all next time.